Hello and welcome to another episode of Into the Afroverse. I'm your host, William Jones, and Into the Afroverse is where we take Black folks into the future. One of the things I like about this show, and I've mentioned it before, this is a great place for creators, intellectuals, and the like to come together to share their stories, to share their information, to talk about the work that they're doing, and also to talk about the envisioning where they see Black folks into the future. And as part of what we're doing with Afrofuturism, we oftentimes will look to the past to bring us into the future. And that brings me to my guest today. Most of you, I'm sure, if not all of you, have heard about Harriet Tubman, who freed so many enslaved Africans. But what if we took a different spin on that story? What if we looked at it through a different lens? And that's what my guest did today. David Crownson is a filmmaker, an actor, and the writer and creator of Harriet Tubman, Demon Slayer. That's right, you heard me correct. Harriet Tubman, Demon Slayer. So welcome to Into the Afroverse, David.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you. So just straight off the bat, can you tell us a little bit about yourself in addition to what I've already stated to give us some more background about who you are and what you do?
So a bit about me. My name's David Crownson, born and raised in New Jersey, and grew up in New Jersey. My parents are originally from Ghana, West Africa, so I'm first gen African American. Basically, just grew up with immigrant parents in New Jersey. Grew up liking comic books, movies, TV, and I think to the point where I thought about like having a career as a cartoonist or like a filmmaker of some kind, but I couldn't draw to save my life. So I just stayed a fan. I didn't know you could be a writer and then, partner up with an artist at the time. But I just grew up reading Superman. My dad got me into comic books. He's the one that got me into all of this. He got me a Death of Superman graphic novel. And that's kind of what started my journey. And that's my first introduction to Superman, not Christopher Reeve.
Right.
My introduction to Superman is a comic book where he is beaten to death, which kind of messed me up a little bit as a kid because I'm like, oh wait, like Superman, like I just assumed superheroes like lose,
Right.
I was like, oh man, and the way they made it sound, they're like Death of Superman. So I was like, oh, I guess there ain't gonna be any more Superman books. So I was like, I was really young and
Right.
really naive. I was like, I was like, man, like. Also, this was around the time like Lion King came out, so I was like, oh man, like Mufasa died. I was like, oh snap, like heroes can die.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's pretty interesting time to get involved. Those pretty, I guess, impactful moments for yourself as a creator. Were there any other inspirations that kind of put you on this path to becoming a comic book writer and creator?
I just kind of stayed a fan for a couple of years. Like I think I made little funny like cartoon comic strips when I was a kid, when I was like 9, and I was like, yo, I'm gonna make some cartoon comic strips like Curtis or like Peanuts, Dilbert,
Right.
because these aren't like perfectly well drawn Todd McFarlane images. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do that and make some money, but that's not what happened. But
Right.
I think I mainly focused on acting because I enjoyed the performance aspect of it, and kind of just went to school for theater. I did a performing arts high school, and then went to Academy of Art University and studied acting and minored in screenwriting. And I did that for a year and transferred to a conservatory in New York City, neighborhood playhouse school of theater,
Mhm.
which was basically just like the most intensive acting training in the world, because you are doing Shakespeare, you're doing ballet, you're learning how to sing, musical theater, all this other stuff for a 5 days a week, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. You are just in that world. Um, but yeah, but it was great for me. And then I went on and started doing a whole bunch of theater. Yeah, I think
Wow.
what led to me becoming like a comic book creator to creating Harriet was me getting rejected. That's kind of negative. I shouldn't say rejected, because it was a really positive, exciting time.
Right.
Now that I'm looking back on it, like I had an audition, and it was one of the biggest auditions of my career. Was for this independent movie called Star Wars: The Force Awakens,
Really?
and yeah, that's right. That's right. I could have been Finn, baby. That could have been me.
Wow.
John Boyega stole my check. No, it's okay. It's all right. Um, so John Boyega, I auditioned for it, and I didn't know I was auditioning for it. I thought I was just auditioning for like because they're very like secretive. So I thought I was
Right.
auditioning for an army movie, the way they were setting it up. So as soon as I got in there and auditioned and all this other stuff happened, I had a few callbacks for it because they liked the performance I gave in the first couple of auditions.
Right.
So I came back, and this time they were just like, "Yo, we really like him. We want to have him read for the lead part." And I was like, "All right, cool." And then they said, "Yo, you can't tell anyone about this audition." And I was like, "Okay." But again, the way they were like feeding it to me through my agent at the time,
Hmm.
they made it seem like it was like an independent art house movie about being in the army or like being a soldier. So I was
That's
like, all
incredible.
right. But then I found out like on the day, like the final audition, I come in and they're like, yo, surprise, it's Star Wars, Lucasfilm, Disney. I said, oh snap, it's Star Wars. So but yeah, they were like, all right, it's Star Wars. We're kind of over this, so you better like bring it and audition. And I was like, oh snap. So, but they're actually really cool and nice, and it was like a really like long process. I was in the room for like 2 hours, and there was a bunch of people, bunch of executives. J.J. Abrams wasn't there, and I just performed pieces of this script uh, that was going to end up being the movie. So I think after it was over, I think like a week later, I found out I didn't get the part, and I was devastated.
Right.
So I was like, man, I spent so much time and energy because it was like a month of going back and forth and auditioning and then not getting it. I mean, I should have just been grateful that I got like called in,
Right.
but I was like, man, I got to go back to my job, like working customer service where I'm treated badly. Um, man, this is annoying, but it's all right.
Right.
I think my family, they had been living in Ghana. They moved back to Ghana, and they were just like, hey, if you don't get, because I had been auditioning for Star Wars, and I auditioned for another TV show called Orange is the New Black, and
Yes.
I was auditioning for another this other TV show that ended up not getting made. Uh, but yeah, I had auditioned for like these three big jobs and had callbacks for these three big jobs, and then it led to me not getting any of them.
Wow.
So I was like devastated, but I should have been grateful that like, hey, I can like at least say I got called in for three really big gigs. Um, but my mom and my stepfather at the time was just like, hey, I think you should, if you don't get any of these roles, you sound really stressed out. I think you need to temporarily like give up your apartment, give up your jobs, plural, because I was living in New York City, so it's really
Hmm.
expensive. Um, Give up your jobs and just come live with us and just kind of relax and meditate. and just reconnect to yourself. And at first I was like, I ain't doing any all that stuff. I'm trying to work. I'm a man trying to
Right.
hustle, get my money on.
Right.
And but I was just so tired and just so like worn out. I'm like, yo, fine. I don't care. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this lifestyle. So I moved to Ghana, West Africa, with my family for 4 months and gave up like I think I quit. Um, I quit like three of them. I had four jobs at the time, and I quit all of them. Yes. So
Wow.
I was like, yeah. I tried to say, hey, I'm taking a leave of absence, but they were just like, well, actually, technically, I was fired because I was just going to take a leave of absence.
Right.
And they were like, no, you're fired. You can't take a 4 month leave of absence. And I'm like, well, I'm coming back. And they were like, nah. I'm like, all right,
Wow.
bye. Going to Africa, going to Ghana. So I did
Wow.
that, and Ghana, West Africa was great. It was amazing. Food was dope. People were great. And so this is what leads into Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman is a hugely celebrated figure in Ghana. Like I found out that like her heritage, her roots are traced back to Accra, Ghana. So she's like, oh, she's like a huge celebrity in Ghana. So like I was like, and I didn't like know that. Like I had just found that out. And I think there was a documentary, I don't remember what, I think it was like called like Moses something. Um
Woman called Moses.
yes.
Yes.
But actually I don't think it was that because
Okay.
I just remember it had Moses in the title.
Okay.
I don't think it was called Woman Called Moses, but I think it was like Moses, semicolon, the true life story of Harriet Tubman. It was something like that.
Okay.
And was just watching it, and I'm like, okay, cool, dope, awesome, Harriet Tubman. I'm learning all this cool stuff, and like, yeah, this is like yeah, like it was a good day. Like I had some fried chicken. I was in Ghana, West Africa. Like this is the blackest sentence ever said. I was eating fried chicken while being in Ghana, watching a documentary about Harriet Tubman. The blackest sentence ever spoken into existence.
Right.
Um,
Now, let me ask you this, and if you're just joining us, this is Into the Afroverse with your host William Jones. We're joined today by David Crownson, the writer and creator of Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer, and he's telling us this incredible story of basically bouncing back from, I guess, what you would define as a letdown and turning it into this incredible project that you've gotten off the ground. How did you make this connection? How did you come up with this idea of Harriet Tubman becoming a demon slayer? What led you on that path?
well, yeah, I'll continue with it.
Mhm.
Like the documentary, because this all happened in the same day,
Right.
and was just eating food, watching this documentary on Harriet Tubman, and then when it ended, I was channel surfing, and I landed on Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and it was the ending of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, this Ang Lee amazing, beautiful martial arts movie, and it's the ending fight scene where it's Michelle Yao fighting Zhang Zi, and it's a really like intense like katana fight scene, um, just really epic, really cool. And then when that ended, I started watching this movie called Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters, but it was a terrible movie. I did
Right.
not love it. No disrespect to the people who made that movie, because making a movie is really difficult. It's really hard.
Right.
Um, so I think later on that night, I was just writing in my journal, was just like, hey, I was in, got some fried chicken, watched Harriet Tubman, then watched Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. There was an amazing katana fight scene, and then like I said, watch Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters. It was a terrible movie, and I think I did all that, and I just remember I was writing in my journal, and then something about, I think someone had posted something on Facebook about like mashing things up,
Right.
and someone posted like, someone posted this scene. It was Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and but someone had changed the katanas that they were using into lightsabers, like Star Wars. And they're like, oh,
Right.
what if it was like, what if Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon was secretly a Star Wars movie? And I just thought about that idea of like mashing different stories and genres up. And I looked back and I was just reading my journal entry, like what I had just basically written. And these three things stood out to me. And it was Harriet Tubman, katana fight scene, and witch hunters. And I kind of looked back and I was like just kind of thinking, and then it just kind of like a light bulb went off in my head, and I was like, Harriet Tubman, Demon Slayer. Like, what if
Wow.
Harriet Tubman knew martial arts and moved in the same like choreography, uh, moved in the same like choreography as
Right.
Crouching Tiger, but she like had superhuman strength and she beats up a racist werewolf.
Wow.
And I'm like, wait a minute, like, what if that was like a thing? So I was just stuck on this imagery of Harriet Tubman as like this powerful, petite ninja warrior. Um, and like, yeah, what if like this was made with like a young Cicely Tyson, um, and because she played Harriet, she's the first person to play Harriet Tubman on film.
Right.
So I'm just like, like I just kept on like thinking of that imagery, like a short, dark skinned black woman who knows martial arts and has superhuman strength. And I just kept on, I just kept writing it: Harriet Tubman, Demon Slayer, Harriet Tubman, Demon Slayer, Harriet Tubman, Demon Slayer, Harriet Tubman, Demon Slayer.
Wow.
And I circled it and I underlined it. But I didn't know what to do with it because the first thing that went to my head was, oh, it's a movie. It's something that deserves a big budget. And I couldn't think of like, I'm like, oh man, I can't like, I'm like, man, I'm like, man, I don't have the money to make
Right.
this. Like, I don't come from wealth.
Right.
Like my parents, like my mom is a retired, you know, corporate world, Johnson and Johnson. My stepfather is a pastor. I don't come from money. Like I'm a preacher's kid. Like I don't come from money. So I was like, man, I can't make this. I don't have millions of dollars, and I don't even have those connections to make this happen. So I'm like, damn, what am I gonna do? Um, so I was like, it'll come to me. I kind of like being in Ghana, it just made me more relaxed because before Ghana, I was really like intense about I gotta make things happen. I was really like, oh, I gotta push things. Ever since being in Ghana, I'm much more like I think the biggest change is just being more relaxed and having more gratitude, which is I think is a big thing we all need to have more of.
Right. Right.
Um, and just kind of letting things play out instead of having to force and work hard at it and push it. Um, so yeah, I think as soon as I got back to New York, I think I don't know when you're traveling, sometimes there were these overpriced bookstores, and there
Mhm.
was one bookstore that said, I think I was in this bookstore and I just kind of wanted to get something to eat. I got a snack, and I saw that there was a book called Words for Pictures, and it was a book about how to make comic books, and it was written by my favorite writer for comic books, Brian Michael Bendis. And I'm like, oh wait, um, it's a comic book. I'll make Harry Tubman Demon Slayer a comic book. I got it. And I got the book. I ordered it on Amazon because buying it at the airport would have been $80.
Right.
I bought that book for $11 on Amazon. And then just spent the next year kind of reading the book and teaching myself how to write in comic book script, and then spending the rest of the year doing research on the real life Harriet Tubman, and then just kind of going through different biographies and different manuscripts that I found, and then just Googling the hell out of different aspects of Harriet Tubman's life,
Mhm.
watching different documentaries, and mind you, like there hadn't been like a definitive like this is before Cynthia Erivo's
Right.
movie came out. This is before Harriet was featured on Underground. This was before Harriet was even on this show called Timeless. So there hadn't been like a definitive this is the Harriet Tubman story thing that came out. The only thing that had the only content of Harriet Tubman out was this Cicely Tyson movie
Right.
that came out in like 1976.
Wow.
And like that was it. And I think there was one like made for TV like PBS movie. So couldn't find a lot of stuff. So making it was I think people were I think also when I did a bunch of research on the real life Harriet Tubman and then did a bunch of like research on vampires, demons, werewolves,
Right.
lots of Anne Rice stuff, lots of Van Helsing stuff, or just to, and also watched a whole entire season of Buffy the Vampire Slayer just to get the tone.
Right.
Because I wanted this to match the tone of Django Unchained meets Buffy. That's what I wanted to
Gotcha.
go for with making this, and
Gotcha.
uh, and that's how I wanted to push it.
Okay.
So with this, um, I think I found the artist, this great artist named Cortland Ellis, and basically asked him like, "Hey, like I have this idea for a comic book." He said, "What's it called?" I said, "It's called Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer." And he's like, we're gonna get in so much trouble. Let's do it." And
Wow.
he's like, "Yeah, so what do you want this to look like?" I said, "I want to do the cover, just to get people excited for it." And the cover is, the cover of issue 1, where it basically just says Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer, and it shows Harriet Tubman like staring at us, really intense. And what's it called? Uh, I said I want that to be the cover, and I want reflections of vampires and demons, witches and werewolves, all to be in the reflection of the katanas. And he was all right, and he
Yeah.
disappeared for like 2 weeks. Paid him to draw it, and he came back, and he has this epic, like, awesome cover. And I was like, "That's amazing."
That's incredible.
So, but yeah, like there was some backlash. Some
Right.
people were, again, because you can't blame them because there's not a lot of Harriet Tubman content. So I think I released it. I said, "Hey, everyone," and I didn't have like a following. I
Right.
had maybe like 100 followers.
Right.
I think I had like 50 to 100 followers on Instagram, and I just said, "Hey, everyone, um, here's my cover for my first comic book. It's called Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer. It's coming soon. Enjoy this cover. Hope you like it."
Excellent.
And I think I turned off my phone and went to go see a movie, turned my phone back on, and that post went viral. And
Wow.
people were arguing. They're like, "Yo, I can't believe he made," like, some people were like, "This looks great. This looks cool." Some people were like, "Yo," cursing me out who didn't even like know me. And I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa." So I'm like, okay. At first, I was kind of scared because I've never
Right.
had like people like cuss me out and say mean things to me. But this was very much like a split thing until like the book like came out. But
Right.
I think I found an investor who was going to invest in making the comic book.
Hmm.
But he kind of turned out to be flaky. So I think I was going to go through Kickstarter and just kind of fund it through that. But I don't know, I got nervous, and then I said, "Hey, let me just take a break," because like this is really hard. I spent many months trying to get this contract done and made.
Right.
Um, Let me just and I'm too scared to do Kickstarter. Let me just take my time. I'll worry about it. And this was in like 2015. Actually, no, this was like 2016. Um, I'm like, man, this has been hell going through this with a year. So let me just uh, focus on my other stuff, keep auditioning, and I shouldn't stress about this because
Right.
Hillary Clinton's going to be president tomorrow. Like everything's going to be dope and cool. We're going to have a first like female president. This is
Right.
crazy. I can't believe like Donald Trump was out here making a fool. That was some funny stuff.
Okay.
Uh,
I'm sorry, but I gotta pause you right there. We are up against it, believe it or not. This is Into the Afroverse with William Jones, and we're joined by David Crownson. David, we have these great conversations. We have these enlightening stories that you're bringing. The time moves quickly, and we're really up against it. I would like to invite you back because I know I want to hear the rest of this story, and I also want to hear about the backlash, the criticism, and your success with this story. And I'm sure the listeners out there want to get into that too. would you be able to come back to join us for another interview to continue this story?
Yes, I should be.
Awesome.
You and we'll make it work because I'm getting ready. Everyone, I'm doing San Diego Comic-Con next week. So yeah, I should be able to squeeze in some time. We'll make it work.
Great.
And yeah.
So once again, this is Into the Afroverse with your host, William Jones, right here on WOL AM 1450, 95.9 FM, where information is power. Thank you again, Dave.